Christina loved animals, and sometimes that love got her into trouble. She could never control herself. If an animal was in distress, she got involved, and sometimes, even though it was a bad idea, she did it. Her husband always joked, saying that one day she would jump off a ledge because she had to save some animals. The day she found the kitten was the closest they had been to being right. Christina was driving home from work when she saw something terrible. There was a huge dog cornering something small against a wall. She was going to see what it was from the road, but knew she would check it out as soon as possible. She found a parking spot and ran towards the huge dog. As she approached, she saw it was a kitten that was stuck on the wall. She signaled for him to leave it alone, and the kitten took the opportunity to run along with the dog towards the nearby park, but he hadn't finished with the cat. So, the dog kept chasing the feline, and Christina followed. The dog almost caught up with the cat near the river, but she climbed a tree and escaped. She tried to get away from him as much as possible to climb the branches of the tree over the river. Christina finally caught up with her and told the dog loudly to go home. He wanted to bark at her, but respected the authority of her voice. He turned around and ran off, and the kitten was saved. The kitten was unsure how to get down. The moment it lost its balance, Christina couldn't help but peacefully when the cat fell. The cat fell into the river and kept its head above water for a few seconds, but kept sinking. The tide could have been too strong for its small body. On the cold winter morning, the last thing Christina wanted to do was swim, but she would not leave the kitten there. She took off her shoes and entered the cold water. She had no rest. It took a second to orient herself, and then she swam as fast as she could to where she last saw the kitten. Its head reappeared, and Christina managed to grab it and quickly return to the shore. The poor kitten trembled with fear and cold. They both had to get back home as soon as possible. Christina knew Pedro would give her a lecture to take better care of herself, but she preferred to end it once and for all than to stay with that wet and cold clothes. She had a towel in the car, because lately she had frequently enjoyed it and could use it to sit on, protecting the seats while she had the kitten nearby. Her house wasn't far away. So, she called Pedro and asked him to prepare a hot chocolate and a warm bath. When she stopped, she ran with a dry towel to wrap herself in another small one for the kitten. Pedro said she had to take care of herself, but then, without saying anything else, he gently picked up the kitten and started taking care of her. Christina got into the bathtub to warm up. In the other bathroom, Pedro gave the kitten a quick bath and dried her off. Meanwhile, when they were both warm, he prepared a hot drink for them. Hot chocolate with marshmallow for Christina and warm milk for the kitten. Christina was wrapped in a large blanket in front of the fire with the kitten inside the blanket with her. Pedro laughed. He loved his wife's kind heart, but sometimes he was worried. Christina could no longer act on impulse. She had a precious baby in her belly that needed protecting. Until it was born, she had the kitten to practice with. They decided to keep her, even knowing that the kitten was from the street, and named her Priscilla. It was a great addition to the family. They had always wanted to have a pet, but they imagined they would wait until the baby was another year old. It wasn't in their plans, but they didn't change the fact that Priscilla lived with them. The kitten loved Christina and was even starting to warm up to Pedro. When they spayed her, she slept all night on Christina's chest. It was like a baby. It was very sweet, but they were worried about what would happen when their baby was born. Before they knew it, the time had come, and Christina was ready to go to the hospital and bring her little one home. They were worried about Priscilla, but they would be home before she realized it. 2 days later, they brought home their little Gregorio. Christina was eager to introduce Priscilla to her baby. The cat came out to hear them and curled up at Christina's feet. Christina handed the baby to Pedro so she could pay attention to Priscilla so she wouldn't feel she didn't want her as much anymore. Then Pedro bent down and opened the blanket so the cat could see it was a little human and not just a blanket hood with a head. The cat moved and started purring. She didn't like the baby's smell, but she was willing to give it another chance. And shortly after, Priscilla moved again. But when she smelled the blanket, the baby started crying. He was hungry, but the cat was startled by the loud noise. She jumped with a start at the loud noise coming from the small baby. For weeks, the cat didn't even enter the same room as the baby. She wanted to cuddle with Christina, and when the baby slept elsewhere, she sneaked in and sat on her owner's lap. But as soon as he woke up, she ran away. Priscilla wanted nothing to do with the baby. The cat started to become more curious about the baby when she saw Gregorio wrapping a blanket around the couch. The cat moved. She wanted to meet the little one, so she moved crawling from the baby and smelled it. The moment she started making small meows, which then turned into anger and crying. Those were the moments when the cat had no interest in being near the baby. As soon as Gregorio started crying, Priscilla jumped and ran to another room. She didn't like loud noises. When she moved there the first time, the house was very beautiful and quiet. Now there was much more noise. Christina and Pedro made sure to give her a lot of love and attention when they weren't busy with the baby. They even put the baby in his room to make sure he could enjoy the attention without worrying about what he might do. Then, as the baby grew, watching through various stages, and at that moment, he was in a stage where he didn't want to be left alone. Pedro had returned to work and couldn't help with the baby during the day. Christina was exhausted. She couldn't stop holding the baby in her arms. One day, she was so tired that she decided to sit on the couch to watch a movie while Gregorio slept in her arms. Priscilla moved. She wanted to cuddle with Christina. Not even the presence of the baby made her change her mind. For the first time, the baby didn't make noise and didn't smell bad. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all. When she rested her head on Christina's arm, the baby's small back got in the way, and she also rested his head on him. From then on, it seemed that she had finally made peace with having a new baby at home. It even seemed that she began to like it. When she slept, she went into the crib and lay at his feet. When the cat was there with him, he didn't seem to mind being put to sleep. He calmed down and slept much faster than usual. She didn't think it was possible, but on those days, Christina, even more so the cat, later something would happen that would show how loyal this cat was. Now that Priscilla had accepted the baby, she was becoming very protective of him. She followed the baby wherever he went and made sure to be close to his feet all the time. He started eating solid foods, and if a French fry or other snack fell on the floor, the cat didn't mind. Everything was fine until Gregorio grew up and started moving more. The cat didn't like it. Her protective instincts were triggered. When his parents were around, the cat was fine. But when they were too far away to help, she took care of the baby with her own paw. Christina laughed one day and told Pedro to watch from the kitchen. They were just around the corner, but apparently that was too far for the cat's liking. The baby had just started to approach the furniture. He even managed to take a few inspection steps. But Priscilla didn't like that. While Christina and Pedro watched, Gregorio leaned in, and then the cat intervened between him and the small table. She stood on her hind legs with her paws on his shoulders and gently pushed the baby down while he could practice his steps. While his parents were there to ensure his safety, but if there wasn't an adult nearby, then he had to crawl or crawl. The first time they saw it, Christina and Pedro thought it was a coincidence, but they stepped away on purpose. And whenever they participated, Priscilla made sure Gregorio stayed on all fours to crawl. The baby was getting stronger, and that made the cat even more protective. Priscilla took this self-proclaimed responsibility for care very seriously. People always talk about how good dogs are with children, and they can be, but this cat was just as amazing. As the baby grew, the poor little cat had to worry about more things. As soon as he could walk well, a whole new world of mischief opened up to him. Priscilla didn't allow him to hurt himself exploring the house. There were stairs, and it seemed like the baby was always trying to push Priscilla's boundaries. As soon as Christina turned her back, he would approach the stairs to climb them, but this could be very dangerous if the baby fell backwards or hit his head. Priscilla's response to this danger was to make sure he stayed away from the stairs. As he headed in that direction, she would position herself in front of him and hold him back. She simply wouldn't let him pass. He wasn't yet very fast or stable on his feet, so he couldn't push her, and she decided he wasn't going in that direction. It was very helpful to have an animal that helped take care of the child. To think there was a time when Christina was terrified that the cat would hate the baby, and she loved her so much that she even upgraded to a surrogate mother position. The family always joked that Gregor was Priscilla's baby, but she had no idea how far she would go to protect the son she loved. Soon, the family would be surprised and laugh at what happened next. It was summer, and the weather was great. They loved playing outdoors with Gregorio. When it was hot, winter would soon return, and they had to make the most of the warmth and the beautiful garden, which they did. It was the first year that Gregorio could walk and run on the grass, and watching him play was a lot of fun. Priscilla reluctantly went out too. Since they adopted her, she had become an indoor cat. She didn't see the point of being outside. The outside world was never friendly to her, so what would come out if not necessarily the only reason was to have fun with her family? When everyone went out with blankets and toys, Priscilla knew they would be out for a while, and despite hating the garden, she didn't want to miss out on that. Christina had bought new toys to play with, and she was immersed in them when Gray immediately stopped playing and watched where the boy was within his parents' reach. It wasn't far away, so they allowed him to run, but Priscilla didn't like it. She called out to him and moved only out of concern, and they always remained grateful that she made that decision. Suddenly, something wild happened. Gregorio pulled a flower from the garden, right under a huge tree. He turned to call Christina, showing her the beautiful flower, but then something strange happened. It seemed like Priscilla didn't like flowers because as he continued to show it to his mother, she lunged at him, jumped over his head, and pushed him. Normally, she was very gentle when playing or disciplining the child, but this time she was not gentle at all. She jumped on him, pushed him while jumping. She had never seen her act like this before, and he started to cry. Christina ran to pick him up. He had scratched legs and a scratched face from the cat's pushes. They were shocked. What happened to the cat couldn't believe she had pushed him so hard. It made him lose his balance. They took care of him, and when they came back to see what had happened to the cat, shocked, Priscilla had something huge in her mouth. She was shaking, throwing it away, but then swinging back over him. They approached closer and realized it was a large and very poisonous snake, or used to be. The cat completely destroyed it. She wouldn't accept that a snake would try to attack her son. She could have been rough with Gregorio, but she had to take urgent measures to get him out of danger, and she did. But as soon as she got rid of the snake, they realized something else. She didn't move fast enough. Taking care of Gregorio said she herself hadn't left danger. The cat was bitten, and she was getting very sick. She believed she had to take care of the baby, but now she could lose her. She saved her son, but it would be at the cost of her own life. Christina was crying and speaking softly to the cat she was carrying in her arms all the way to the vet. Priscilla was her first baby, and her heart would break if she lost that cat who had done so much for her. She believed that the best thing she had ever done in her life was to save that kitten, and Priscilla was proving that by also saving her little brother. She just hoped she could keep both of them. That the trip lasted a long time, but in fact it was only a few minutes, and the vet started taking care of Priscilla as soon as it seemed like she arrived. The snake tried to bite the cat, but she was quick. She was only caught on one side, and instead of 2 bite marks, there was only 1. Much less venom entered her body. The snake she caught had a potent venom, and she had received a full dose. She would already be dead. But as they were in a fight, she only managed to hit one side of the leg, and only one of the venom entered, so she could still fight it and destroy it. They had to medicate her and take care of her. They had to cut large pieces of fabric, but it was all worth it when, just a few days later, they could take their little heroine home. Gregorio ran and hugged the cat. They had to constantly remind him of his injury, but he was very kind and was very happy to have his best friend back. Christina saved the cat's life when she was just a kitten, and by adopting her, this cat became part of the family, and they were grateful to have her in their lives. They ensured that she felt that love for the rest of her life. Friends, thank you for watching so far, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel and share the video with your friends and family. Comment down here what you thought. See you soon with more stories. A big hug, and may God bless you.